Hi everyone, welcome to my official YouTube channel. My name is Lorenzo Bettoni and I'm an Italian journalist covering Syria and Italian football. And for this first video on my YouTube channel, I want to go through the Italy national team for Nations League games against Germany. First leg of the quarterfinals is scheduled at San Siro on March 20, and the second leg will be played in Dortmund Signal Iduna Park on March 23rd. So Luciano Spalletti named his 25-man squad list on Friday. Slightly deeper squad than the previous call-ups. After the Euros, we were accustomed to see a Spalletti calling 22, 23 players. This time around, he picked 25 players, adding a couple of extra strikers, actually a couple of extra wingers, I would say, because the players, compared to the previous call-ups, the extra players this time around are Politano and Zaccagni, who can cover multiple positions in this team. We still expect Spalletti to use a basic 3-5-2 system, I would say, but it can become a 3-4-2-1 or 3-5-1-1, depending on which players he's going to use. Now, after the Euros, he's been playing mostly with a 3-5-1-1, so just one center forward and then two wing backs. The starters are Di Marco and Cambiaso, but Di Marco is injured this time around, so Ruggeri has been called up for the first time. And just really filling the center midfield with just center midfielders, no attacking midfielders. If we don't want to consider Barella and Frattesi attacking midfielder, they are more box-to-box rather than attacking midfielders. But first of all, let's see the names on the Italy squad that will be facing Germany in the Nations League quarterfinals. We go through the Football Italia website, the site I work for, and we see Donnarumma, Meret and Vicario in goal, Bastoni, Buongiorno, Calafiori, Cambiaso, Comuzzo, Di Lorenzo, Gatti, Ruggeri and Udoighi in defense, Barella, Casadei, Frattesi, Ricci, Rovella and Tonali in midfield, Kean, Lucca, Maldini, Politano, Raspadori, Retegui and Zaccagni in attack. As I've already mentioned, Ruggeri of Atalanta and Casadei of Torino are the debutants in this team. I was a little bit surprised about the Ruggeri call-up, I have to say, because he hasn't really been an Atalanta starter. Atalanta have been doing great things. Ruggeri is a great player, very young, 22 years old. But he hasn't really been a starter in 2025 for Atalanta because Gasperini has been using mostly Davide Zappacosta. Now, Zappacosta has more experience. You remember his time at Chelsea. He played for Torino. He played for Genoa. But he's probably having the season of his career this time around, really. And especially 2025 has been amazing for him because he's had 4 starts in the Champions League and 4 assists, including in a game against Barcelona. So that was pretty big. And then he has 2 goals and 1 assist in 7 games as a starter in Syria. Ruggeri has only started 4 Syria games in 2025. No goals, no assists, and no Champions League game started. So it says a little bit that he hasn't been a regular starter at Atalanta in the first 3 months of the year, but it doesn't take away the fact that he's a very promising and very good left back, and he's going to compete with Udoighi for a starting spot against Germany. For the goalkeepers, there were many names in contention. Vicario has returned from an injury with Tottenham. Donnarumma is the clear starter regardless of the heroics at Anfield. There was a little doubt about the third choice keeper with Provedel of Lazio in contention, Juventus Di Gregorio, and especially Atalanta's Carnesecchi. Spalletti picked Donnarumma, Meret and Vicario, and it's actually hard to argue with that. Italy are very lucky because we have a lot of very good goalkeepers, and leaving at home, keepers like Carnesecchi and Di Gregorio is really impressive, I would say, because it shows just how much depth we have in goal. It would be great to have the same depth in the other departments of the pitch, but I think we're really improving. I think Spalletti can, we don't have, it's a new talking point. We don't have top-class strikers or great number 10s like in the past. No more Baggio, no more Del Piero, no more Totti, but we've been talking about this for months and years, and we need to deal with what we have, and what we have is actually pretty good. Because, for example, the strikers, Kean and Retegui, they are the best scorers in Serie A, Retegui over Kean, but it says a lot about the potential that we have up front. So all we need to do is try to fulfill this potential, and this will be up to Spalletti. But we've gone through the goalkeepers, we've gone through the defenders, now into the midfield. The only change compared to the November fixtures is Casadei for Pisilli. Pisilli was called up for the November games, and now he's remained at home. I mean, he's not at home because he's in the under-21 team. So he's going to play in international games at the under-21 level. Casadei has been called up for the first team this time around. And let me share another screen with you about Casadei, because he joined Torino from Chelsea only barely a month ago, 40 days ago. He returned to Serie A. He's a product of the Inter Academy, and he has become an immediate starter in the Torino midfield. It was just about time before Casadei was called up with the national team. We know his impact in the Under-20 World Cup when he was the best scorer, the best player as well. But he's kind of changed, especially under Maresca at Chelsea in the first part of the season. He didn't play much, but when he did play, he was used as a holding midfielder or a deep line playmaker. So he's playing a little bit down in central midfield and not as an attacking midfielder. But his numbers with Torino are honestly really, really good, and he has become an immediate starter. He has already scored a goal against Monza. So it was, as I said, it was just about time before he was called up by Spalletti. Spalletti had already spoken very highly of Casadei. Even I remember January 2024, the first interview of Spalletti. Casadei was still Leicester, so playing in England's second division, and he was already following him, of course, because he had had a great under-20 World Cup, and generally everyone in Italy is well aware of Casadei's quality, and especially Casadei's physicality, which is key in Spalletti's idea of football. He said many times over the last few months that Italy really need a sort of more physicality in central midfield, more physicality in attack, because that's what it takes to compete with the biggest countries out there. He made the comparison with France that beat the Azzurri in the latest round of Nations League games, and although Casadei is still very young, his physicality can really help the Azzurri in midfield, and then we'll see if he's going to move higher up the pitch or if he's going to be used as a holding or deep line playmaker by Spalletti. We've seen a little bit of his stats in here, a little bit of an overview from SofaScore on Casadei stats, and I want to share with you another thing on Spalletti, one of his latest interviews about the attack and the way he develops the Azzurri attacks. Now, we've been talking about the two strikers, Kean and Retegui, but I'd be very surprised if both strikers start against Germany, because Spalletti has already said that he's going to use two strikers, especially against teams that defend with a low block and so are harder to break down. And this is not really the playing style that Germany are expecting to use, because they will likely press high and try to win the ball high up the pitch. So it's not something that we expect to see from Germany sit deep. And so I expect just one center forward to start for Italy. But wingers, in this case, wingbacks, will play a key role, and we'll see how. I'll show you this interview from Spalletti from just a few weeks ago. you may be able to see now. Well, talking about the strikers, he said, if you play 3-5-2 against low block team, that seems the breaking down them is harder, and you have more dangerous with 2 penalty box strikers. So, of course, Germany, as I said, are not going to sit deep, and I don't expect to see both Kean and Retegui starting. It may happen during the game, but starting with both of them, I think it's going to be hard. Talking about the work of the wingers, Spalletti said something even more interesting. He said, wingbacks like Di Marco and Cambiaso differ from Kvara and Politano, who play closer to the touchline and be defenders on one-to-one to create chances. If your wide players are more about covering ground rather than dribbling past opponents, you rely more on crosses, so having 2 center strikers like Retegui and Kean helps occupy the box better. Sometimes one isn't enough to finish off chances, and in that context, they can definitely play together. So now Di Marco is not here because he's injured and he's probably not going to play against Atalanta. So he's resting and he won't be available against Germany. Spalletti will have 2 different players with Ruggeri and Udogi on the left wing, and on the right wing he will rely on Politano and Cambiaso. Again, they're very different. Cambiaso and Politano, of course, are very different because Cambiaso is more of a right back while Politano is more of a winger. So as Spalletti said, he plays a little bit wider on the wing, while Cambiaso tends to play as an inverted fullback and go inside the pitch and try to create numerical advantage inside the pitch. So what I expect is to see Cambiaso on the right against Germany and probably Udogi on the left. But of course, Spalletti will start the training on Monday, not in Coverciano in Florence, but at Italy training at Inter's training center at Piano Gentile. So the Azzurri will train over there for a couple of days, for 3 days actually, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then on Thursday they play Germany at San Siro. I'll be covering the press conferences. I'll be covering the game as well from San Siro, so watch this space to know more before the game and after the game with all the reactions during next week. There will be a lot to talk about because the results in the Nations League will have an impact on Italy's World Cup qualifying path. So it's going to be very interesting to see whether the Azzurri can qualify or not for the semi-finals. We'll go through these in the next videos. Tomorrow I'll be in Florence to cover Juventus Fiorentina, so keep in touch and watch this space for a few analyses on the game from the Stadio Franchi. And from next week is all going to be about the national team and how Italy can line up against Germany and all the analysis for the game. I hope you like this video. It was my first one, so subscribe to my channel if you want, and if you want to get more content about Serie A and the Azzurri. And thank you for watching for now, and thank you very much, and we'll speak very soon to talk more about Serie A and the Azzurri. Ciao.